My name is Pastor Jacob, and I have the privilege of leading Hope Community Church here in Oregon, Ohio. You are getting ready to hear another teaching, another sermon that hopefully will challenge you as you begin to understand what does it mean to follow Jesus every day of your life. But I did just want to take a moment before we get into the teaching to remind you that this video is not the church. This video is a part of the church. It's a teaching. It's hopefully to encourage you and inspire you to go out and live out your faith. But a local church gathers together weekly to encourage one another, to pray over one another, to challenge one another, and then to go and serve in their local community together. And that is my challenge for you. I would love for you to plug into a local church. We would love to have you here at Hope Community Church, or maybe there's another local church that better fits your needs. But I would love for you to take that next step, to show up and be a part of a community and be a part of what God is doing in your community. We hope that you enjoy this message.
Good morning, everybody. Am I working? Yeah, first step complete, great. All right, so my name is Matt Hofer, as Pastor Isaac just talked about. I am a football player at the University of Toledo. I just finished up my first year, and tomorrow we start football camp. So that's gonna be great. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Pray for me, that'd be awesome. But anyway, I'm studying individualized studies, just so you get to know me. If you're wondering what individualized studies mean, I don't really know, can't tell you. That's the exact same thing I told my mom. But anyway, I'm just trying to do what God has called me to do, and I am privileged and honored to be up here today. You see, today is July 27th, 2025. A year ago on this exact day of July 27th, 2024, I had my last conversation with my grandfather. My grandfather was a Lutheran minister all of his life, dedicated his life to the Lord to serve his people. And in that conversation, he looked at me and said, "Matt, did you know the first place I was ever a pastor was Toledo?" I looked at him and said, "Grandpa, I've been committed here for a year and a half. Why didn't you tell me that before? That was awesome." And that was the last conversation I had. So when I'm up here today, I pray you know that I'm truly honored and humbled to be up here and just thankful to serve the call that God's given me. So as we send our kids to camp, it was perfect timing because I just came back from camp. This past week, Right. All right, there we go. This past week, I was at my old church camp. Growing up at church camp, I went almost every year between the age of 9 and 15, dancing, fun, growing up, just from elementary school, middle school, and high school. And I love this camp. But the last time I was there was in 2022. About 2 weeks ago, I got a call from an old friend saying, "Hey, Matt, we're really low on staff. Would you be able to help out?" And I was like, let me think about this. This is a whole week. This is something that I'm not trained for. Their training is 2 weeks long. I would not have that training. I don't even know what age I'd be signing up for and stuff like that. But I was like, let me pray about it. Let me think about it. Let me talk to my family about it, and we'll see what happens. A couple hours later, I call back. I'm like, I'm in. I don't know what age this is. Please don't stick me with the youngest kids. And we'll go from there. We'll be good. 4 days later, I got a call saying, "Hey, Matt, you got 13 6 to 10-year-olds in your cabin this week from Sunday to Friday and for an overnight camp." It was awesome. But you see, throughout the week, I just had to keep saying yes. I had to keep saying yes to being faithfully obedient to Jesus wherever he took me in my daily life. Now, as we continue in our series, Be Kind, Rewind, I want to add my kid perspective. See, unlike Jacob, there's a couple differences between me and Jacob. One, I'm tall, he's short, and I'm a little bit younger. I didn't grow up with Blockbuster. I think I grew up with something much better. I grew up with family video. And for myself, every Friday night between the age of 4 and 9, my mom, my brother, and I would go to family video with one rule, one command. You got 10 minutes to pick a movie. Did I always follow that command? My mom's in here today, so I'm not going to lie and say, no, I did not. I did not always follow that 10-minute command. But it was the rule, it was the way of life. Now today in our Bibles, we'll be talking through Proverbs chapter 19 and Matthew chapter 25. If you're new here, first of all, thank you for choosing to worship here this morning. We have Bibles throughout the sanctuary. We'd love for you to have one, take one, read one. We want you to be in your word. We want you to learn more about what God has for you. To start in Proverbs chapter 9, verse 16, it says, "Whoever keeps the commandment keeps his way of life. He who despises his ways will die." I don't know how long you've been around church. Maybe this is your first Sunday, like we said. Thank you. Maybe this is your 1000th Sunday. Thank you for being here. Truly, church and this community is one of the most important parts of our lives, where we get to come together to learn, to grow, to worship, to sing, to do all these things as one body, just as Jesus called us to do. But throughout the past couple months in our series of the image of God and the Colossians series, Jacob mentioned a couple of times about what was the greatest commandment. What was that greatest commandment that we are to live by? And you see, Jesus talked about this. Jesus, when questioned this, he replied with, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments." That was the command. That was the command, the same command of the Shema in Deuteronomy chapter 6 and the law of Moses was the same command that Solomon was talking about in Proverbs chapter 19, was the same command that Jesus was answering to in Matthew 22. That was the command. That was the way of life. Now let's focus in on one of those parts. Love your neighbor as yourself. If you've grown up in church or if you have any church background, you've probably heard this a lot. You've heard, put others before yourself. Live third. Put someone before yourself or step in somebody else's shoes. You see, this is an extremely important way to live our life. We are called as followers of Jesus to love other people. We are called to be faithfully obedient to all people in our daily life. And this takes work, and this takes practice. And let me tell you, it is extremely hard to love others if you are not doing a great job of loving yourself. It is extremely difficult to love others if you're not doing a great job of loving yourself. But how can we be faithfully obedient? Where? When? In the next verse in Proverbs chapter 19, verse 17, it says, "Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord. He will reward them for what they have done." I also want to add Proverbs chapter 29, verse 7, which says, "The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no such concern." A couple weeks ago, I read that and I thought, man, this is beautiful. See, I feel like in our culture, it's all about me. This past week at camp, we did this skit with a bunch of counselors. I got thrown into the middle part, the main part, and I was like, guys, that's not fair, but all right. And it was just all these counselors walking around saying, me, 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 me. And then I came in and said, no, him, him, him. You see, we live in this world where it's all about me, me, me. No, it's all about him. That cross is what we are for. It's about him. It's about how we give the glory to him. See, even in our service, it's about me. We'll do a community service act for our school because it's required. We'll help out somebody else and do this volunteering thing because we want to stack a resume for someday. Or we'll do something good to help somebody else just so we can feel good about ourselves. I'm sorry, but when did we become this way? When as a culture did we become all about me and stop thinking about him? I love our church. I truly love our church. How when every fifth Sunday comes, we are going out and serving. Maybe it's like our last one where we just helped around the church. Maybe it's going down to 419 Cares. Maybe it's going to people in different places. Maybe it's going and just doing whatever we are called to do. But let me tell you what, serving is just as much worship as when you are singing your favorite song on a Sunday morning with your hands held high. Serving is just as much worship as singing or doing whatever or praying. We are called to be faithfully obedient to serving all people and loving on all people the same way we would love and serve Jesus. And I love that because Jesus even talked about that. Jacob stole this piece of scripture from me, so if you've heard this before, good. We need to continue to talk about it. We need to continue being part of it. But I sent my script to him before he said this in church, so I'm saying he stole it from me. But anyway, we are continuing to reinforce this because it is so important. We need to continue to learn and live this way. So in Matthew chapter 25, verses 34 through 40, it says, "Then the king will say to those on his right, Come, you are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? Then the king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. I love that passage. I heard it at church camp when I was like 9 years old, and as I've continued to grow up, it just continues to come. Every time I read it, I'm like, wow, I need to be reminded of that. And I don't just love the words, but I love the timing. You see, when Jesus was talking about this, it was Holy Week. He had already flipped the table at the temple. He knew his time was coming soon. He knew he was about to go to the cross. But the way he said it, I could just imagine him just talking to his disciples. Be like, hey, this is a rule. This is how you are called to live your life. The same way that Jesus said this rule, I always will remember how my dad always looked at me and say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. It was a rule. It was a way of life. And we are called to be faithfully obedient to serve all of God's people. Now, I know that may seem crazy. You're going to say, Matt, how do we serve all of God's people? We're just a couple hundred people. But what if we started in our community? We started with our family. We started with those in our lives. We started with the people that God placed in our life, our coworkers, our friends, our whoever comes across our daily life. We are like, all right, I will serve and I will love them. What if tomorrow we started seeing our family, our friends, our teammates, our coworkers, our spouse, our children, or whoever God placed in our life, the same way we would see Jesus? Now, I'll be honest, guys, I'm not a reader. I know different people come up always talking about a great book. Jacob had a great book suggestion in May. It was called The Celebration of Discipline. I was like, man, that looks great. I think I want to read this. Looked on Amazon. I bought it. I read 6 pages, slammed it shut, and have not opened it since. I'm just not a reader. Reading is not the type of person that I am. I don't know why. I wish I was. But so when it came time for this, I was like, man, what else? Because this is so good. So I prayed, and thankfully the Holy Spirit gave me an idea about a book I read about 1.5 years ago. It was called Having the Mind of Christ by Matt Tebe and Ben Strikey. As I said, I'm not a reader, but I absolutely love this book. I read it, I came back to it, and I was like, yes, this is what we need to talk about. See, throughout this book, they had these things called a paradigm shift. Now, I'm not trying to act like I'm the smart professor or anything like that, so I'm only trying to explain the paradigm shift the way I kind of understood it. I know it's not sunny outside, which is perfect, because growing up I played t-ball, baseball, couldn't hit the ball for anything, but I enjoyed playing it. It was a really good time. And some innings, it'd be really cloudy, so I wouldn't need my sunglasses on. I was like, all right, no cloud, no sun, perfect. And then all of a sudden, like this, the sun would come out. I'd be like, man, I can't see anymore, so I need to put on my sunglasses. When I put on my sunglasses, all of a sudden the world around me, the way I saw the world around me changed. The people didn't change. The ref was still bad at reffing. The baseballs were still being thrown. Everything around me was happening the exact same way. But my perspective on the world changed, so that's how I imagine this paradigm shift. Throughout this book, there's 8 axioms, aka chapters, that talked about these different paradigm shifts of how we can see the world to look more like Christ. I'll be honest, because I'm already running behind in time, I won't go through all of them. I'll go through 4 of them that are my favorites to help us realize that we are called to be faithfully obedient to all people. The first chapter was, God is love, so it's all about love. I loved it when it said, if we are going to be known by our love as disciples of Jesus, we must recover a robust, tangible, Jesus-shaped vision of love and take love seriously as the goal and grounding of our faith. If we must learn to believe that if we don't have love, we don't have anything. If the closest person, Sorry, I had a slide for that, my bad. There's the quote. But anyway, if the closest person in your life was to come up here right now and say, you are known for this, what would they say? What are you known for? What, as a church, are we known for? Are you known for keeping the commands of Jesus? Are we known for loving the Lord with all of our heart, with all of our soul, and with all of our mind? Are we known for loving our neighbors? Are we known for doing a good job loving ourselves? See, sometimes in life, it's awesome. You have a self-realization moment where you're like, yes, this is a change I need to make. Sometimes people just call you out. See, this happened to me this past January. My brother and I were having an argument, as brothers often fight because we love each other. We hold each other to high standards. And throughout this argument, with me and him starting to yell at each other, he said something that hit me to my core that was the truth. He said, Matt, you are so focused on doing mission work in other countries, you are not looking in your own backyard to help other people. And in this argument, I said, man, be quiet. I don't need to listen to you. I'm doing fine just on my own. But after calming down and listening to what he said, I was like, man, that's the truth right there. This past couple months, I've been blessed to be able to serve at Cherry Street Mission in downtown Toledo. I don't know if your place is Cherry Street Mission. Your place may be a team. Your place may be your coworkers. Your place may be a small group. There are a million different places for you to serve. But the serving is not just the main part, it's the loving. It's the loving on the people that we are called to love and have been placed in our life. For me, my favorite part about Cherry Street is not just the serving of the food. It's over time I learned a name. I learned how to pray for them. I learned their story. I learned how to celebrate with them. I learned how to mourn with them. In all of our life, there are so many people that we can do those simple things with. Learn their name, learn their story, pray for them, because we are called to love all people. Think about who you can be faithfully obedient to in your daily life. The next chapter was, God is always present in our work. And he gave a beautiful example in the book saying, even though we affirm the theology of God's omnipresence, when it's time to trust that God is present in our work here and now, in this concrete situation, we step tentatively on the edge of the ice instead of driving confidently out into the middle of the lake. How many of us will go into the place and be like, all right, we're going to this place, we're the only Jesus there. We are the only people that know Jesus there. Jesus has not begun to work in there. Jesus has not stepped foot in there. Why? Why can't we believe that God is already working there? I loved it. I loved it last month when we sent 2 mission teams to Kentucky. They served the Lord as the hands and feet of him in all those situations. I don't even know all that they went through, but trust me, there was a time where they were probably like, what the heck am I doing here? And God just said, you are serving as my hands and feet. But God did not show up when they showed up, and he did not leave when they left. God was working long before they ever got there, and he'll be working long after they're ever gone, because God continues to work in all places. And we need to believe that. And that's difficult, trust me. There are times, and there'll be a morning, I'll wake up, I'll go in the football locker room, and I'll be like, man, this sucks. Not the football part. Sorry if that's online. I promise I love football. I love football. But anyway, there'll be times that I walk through, and I'm like, I want to get made fun of for my faith today. Someone's going to call me an idiot for doing this, or someone's going to call me crazy for not doing this. And there's all of these things. But then I actually step in, and I'm like, I hear this. Hey, Matt, I read my Bible last night. Hey, Matt, I prayed last night. Hey, Matt, I didn't do this because I'm trying to grow my relationship with Jesus. And I think, why have I stopped believing in God to think he can't work in other people's lives? When we serve and we love people, why can't we believe that God has already begun to work in them, and we are just continuing in that process? It could be with your coworker, it could be with your neighbor, it could be with whoever you have in your life. We are called to love them. We are called to serve them, and we need to believe that God is continuing to work. Where is an area this week you can truly make an effort to partner with God by being faithfully obedient? Now, This is going to sound embarrassing, but I have no calendar. I have no calendar, I have no schedule. Even when it came time to practice this, I had to switch my days up on Jacob. So I have a messy reality, life, craziness all around. I'm just praying that I don't miss things. And that's how, if we're being honest, that's 90% of us in here. And that's just how it is. But the beautiful thing is, God meets us in our messy reality. And that's what this next chapter of the book was about. It says, many of us are excellent at appearing and feeling busy, doing stuff for God, all the while not resting in God or drawing our energy and life from God. Just because you are holy, or just because you are busy, does not make you holy. Just because we continue to fill up our schedule with all of these things does not make you holy. Hear me. Nothing is more important than your relationship with Jesus. Nothing is more important than spending your time with God. Nothing is more important than being filled with the Spirit. I would love to hear everyone say, I did 100 hours of service this week. But if you did not spend any time with Jesus this week, then why? Why? You see, we go through these times in life where we get super busy. I love serving, but sometimes I'm like, man, I can't. I need to take some time with the Lord, because that is just as important as serving. It's important to serve, but it's also important to be in our relationship with the Lord. You see, I think about it with God. This next month is going to be the most busy month of the year for me with football camp. I don't want to imagine football camp without God. That's just, we're not going to think about that. But when we don't have that time with God, how can we be fully empowered to do everything that He has called us to do? If we don't spend that time with God, how can we experience everything He has for us? How can we be faithfully obedient to making time for God in our life? In this last chapter I want to talk about, it inspires me. See, growing up, I was always a sports fan. I love sports. Michael Jordan is definitely better than LeBron. I know there's people who like Cleveland in here, but I'm just telling the truth. MJ over LeBron any day of the week. But growing up, I always wanted to watch over other athletes. I wanted to see what they did, especially in my hometown. If you were a really good player, man, I wanted to work out with you. The person I looked up to most in athletics, I'll never tell him this, was my brother. You see, he did what I wanted to do, and I wanted to do more. And at times I got to work out with my brother or another player or somebody who did this or that. And throughout those times, I was like, man, they know more than me. They're more skilled than me. They have more knowledge than me. They have more experience than me. And that's, for me, the same thing I do in my faith life. Every time I'm down and I'm ready to quit, I'm like, nope. The same God that created the heavens and the earth called me by name. The same God that created the oceans and the mountains and all the beauty and all the stars called you. The same God that did all these things wants to have a relationship with you. The same Jesus that went to the cross 2,000 years ago is the same Jesus that we serve today. The same Jesus that loved those who were the least is the same Jesus that we serve today. That same Spirit that filled us at Pentecost, that same Spirit that was there hovering over creation, is the same Spirit filling us every single day. And I say praise God for that. And that's what our final chapter was about. God transforms us through embodied participation. It says we learn to dwell in love through embodied experiential participation. Our participation in God's life happens as we respond to the gospel by taking steps of trust with our bodies. Have you ever had that moment where you're giving it all to the Lord? Let's be honest, it's terrifying. There are those times in life where you're like, God, what the heck are you about to do? Trust me, we've all been there. For me, my moment came on a mission trip when I was 16 years old, and I said the most, looking back, stupid thing ever. I was like, God, I'll give up football for you. Why would you say that in the most important prayer of your life? Why give up football? But for me, I just had to take that step of trust, being like, all right, Lord, if I am no longer a football player, I am perfectly fine. If you are no longer your most important thing in your life, would you still be okay knowing that God has you in His plan and in His purpose? If God called you to love these people and it was differently than what you had in mind, would you still be okay serving the Lord in that facet? See, when we decide to take that step of trust, it's beautiful. Trust me, lives are transformed. That same God that we sang about earlier that transformed all those lives, the lives of Mary and David and Moses, is the same God that's calling us to take that step of trust today. When we decide to be faithfully obedient to God, God wants to use us as his hands and feet, but it starts with trust. Now, I don't know what tomorrow may bring. I have no idea where we will go tomorrow. But going back to Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21, Solomon said, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails." If you would have told me 4 years ago, I'd be standing here today, I'd be like, man, be quiet. What's Toledo? I've never heard of that place. That's a school? That's a town in Ohio? I knew what Ohio was because I'm from Indiana. I'm pretty good with geography, but I would have been like, no, I'm not called to ministry. If you would have told me 4 years ago when I was at my church camp for the last time for the full week that I would have been coming back to be a counselor, I would have been like, absolutely not. Not for me, not in the plans. But you see, God calls us to be faithfully obedient. And throughout that time, last week at camp, I had 13 6 to 10-year-olds in a cabin, and I was just running around almost like a chicken with his head cut off. I didn't get the training. I had the youngest kids, the kids that were crying at night, the kids that had everything going on. I want to share with you this one text message that I sent to a mentor just to explain what life can be like at camp. This is the text. I wish I could explain what I had gone through this past hour. But basically, it started with me being extremely frustrated that our kids took 30 minutes for a pee break when it should have taken 5. Then I was so proud of one of our kids for leading this devotion and saying some truly beautiful stuff at just 9 years old. Then I almost lost my head while taking showers, the kids were messing around, yelling and screaming. Next, this was the best one. Our camp power went out and left all the kids crying, being like, what is happening? Which led other kids to saying, the boogeyman's going to come and get them. Which led to me going into multiple different cabins, saying it in a football tone speech. If the boogeyman comes in this door, I promise you, you better pray that the Lord will have mercy because I will not. The boogeyman had not seen Matt Hofer, and they were not prepared for that. Then, that's not even the end of the night. Then, during our devotions, one kid had a bloody nose, one kid said he couldn't breathe through his nose, and one kid came up to me going, I was like, are you throwing up? And he's like, and I was like, all right, get to the door. I locked the doors because they're so afraid of the boogeyman. I was like, all right, guys, you got to go. You got to get out of here. I'm not cleaning that up. I'm not making that call tonight. And then at the end of the night, to end it all off, I finished praying for 2 kids. And I ended that text with, part of me is exhausted. Part of me truly loves what I get to do in this time. I don't know what faithfully obedient looks like for you. Today, as we've talked about those words, faithfully obedient, it may look like something different for each and every one of us. For all of us, we are called to be faithfully obedient. We are all called to different areas in our life to serve Jesus and serve the people like we would serve Jesus. That faithfully obedient. See, the faithful part, I love. That faithful part is when we are used by God. When we are faithful to God, he will use us. And I even love it even more because when I mess up, he's like, all right, it's not God saying, all right, Matt, I'm done with you. I'll call the next person. It's like, all right, Matt, I don't like what you've done, but I still love you because I am far from perfect. I'm still human. I am learning. We are all on this walk together to live as Christ-like people. And that obedience. The obedience is the place where I believe the fruit of the faith grows. I don't know what those kids will take away from camp. I don't know what those little kids this week will go to camp and experience. Maybe it'll be their first time talking to Jesus. Maybe this week you'll have an encounter with your coworker where it'll be like, hey, why do you live this way? Maybe this week you will serve in an area of your life that you never thought you would serve in, but God will say, please, just go. Maybe there are all of these maybes in our life, but we just have to say, yes, Lord, I trust you. I want to love each of your people as you have called me to love. I want to love you first. I want to love others. I want to love myself. I want to be faithfully obedient wherever the Lord may take you.